Welcome back to the top 145 Mario Kart tracks of all time, episode 2. We are starting things off with track number 116. This is Daisy Hills from Mario Kart 7, previously ranked at number 120 from 5 years ago. This is a fun and interesting track that does not feature farms or cows, although very similar in terms of aesthetic. It has goats. Look at the goat on the left and right in front of you. We have goats all over the place. They're very adorable. The only track to feature goats, so that gives it some points in my book. It's a very simple track, but its aesthetic is beautiful. It's got some nice flowers. It's got some nice colors with the red, yellow, and blue balloons. The windmills are nice aesthetic as well, so it's not your basic flat land meadow type easy track. This town at the end brings everything together and it feels fully thought out. So Daisy Hills, you're a bit easy, you get points in my book. And up next at number 115, we have Frappe Snowland from Mario Kart 64. This is a 2-star difficulty for me, featured in the Flower Cup. Look at that, we got a Yoshi snow statue to the left right by the starting gate, and you have a lot of snowmen as flowers. Now what's the difference between this and Sherbet Land? Yeah, Mario Kart 64 features 2 snow tracks, but you can clearly see more thought and identity was put into this one. This isn't just very simple, it has some challenge thought into it. The snowmen absolutely destroy you when you run into them, and it's got some elevation at some points. There's even a jump, so it's not completely flat, and it's very scenic. It's beautiful. You can see the snow falling down. There's different levels of terrain. You got the snow walls and then the snow hills, so it's put together much more nicely. Coming at 114, we have one of the biggest movers on this list, up 29 spots. This is Bowser Castle 3 from Super Mario Kart. Now, I used to hate this track, and I still don't like it that much. You know, it's down here on this list, but I've learned to appreciate over time. These jumps, it's fun to find the most efficient path and figure them out, kind of like a labyrinth. And the thwomps, while they're nice and chill, they are intimidating because you know they're not going to be up there for very long. They're going to start coming down on you for laps 2 through 5, and that'll make it a lot more challenging. But that's the beauty of this track. It's not challenging just to frustrate you, but it wants to offer that level of accomplishment when you do get past these swamps, get past these ramps, and when that happens, you feel that sense of accomplishment like I said earlier. So overall, I'd recommend it. So coming up at 113, we have Calamari Desert from Mario Kart 64. This is the track that got remakes in both Mario Kart 7 and Mario Kart Tour, but the original has some interesting stuff about it. It has some ad walls to the side of it, some billboards, and the train is the most unique feature of any track thus far in the Mario Kart series, because when you get stuck behind the train, you don't want to get run over by the train. You're not going to go anywhere, so you kind of have to beat the train for priority's sake. And there's also some shortcuts you can do if you are in a star and you go through the wall that the train is going through. If you go onto the train tracks, it will count the lap for you, so that's a very interesting mechanic as well. I just learned that pretty recently, but overall this track functions pretty well. It's a nice closer to the Mushroom Cup. Not my favorite aesthetic wise because it's just orange, but it's not bad. Now up next, we have one of the more delicious tracks in Mario Kart history. This is Sweet Sweet Canyon from Mario Kart 8 and 8 Deluxe. Just look all around you, candy pieces everywhere. You got gingerbread toads in the stands cheering you on as you go forward. You got some frosting for off-road, you got some chocolate for off-road, you got donuts making this tunnel. So just a lot of sweets making up this atmospheric track that just, envelopes you in the sea of hunger and sweetness, which is something that Mario Kart 8 really accomplishes itself in with making these awesome tracks. So I will not put any points down for this track in terms of its looks because it looks fantastic. It's not one of my favorites to play. The path switching is kind of unique, but as you'll see later on the list, Rainbow Road does a lot better with that, and even Bowser Castle to a point. It's got a nice simple shortcut, but overall its function is decent. It's a very simple track, and that's all I have to say about it. Now placed at 111, we have Mario Circuit, Mario Kart Wii's version of Mario Circuit, I should say. It's a very, very simple track, especially for being in the Flower Cup. This feels really much like a Mushroom Cup track, and this does not have much to offer in terms of enjoyment, and it also has the problem of being in Mario Kart Wii, where a lot of the tracks are really fleshed out and awesome. This one just kind of has a figure 8 loop with a little bit of elevation here and there, and just a few grass shortcuts. Yes, there's some amazing Mario Circuit glitches you can do by bouncing off the tree, but that's about it in terms of the level of uniqueness this track has to offer. When you're racing on it, you don't really have that excitement going on because there's so many other tracks you'd rather play. Coming up next, this is a very unique beach track. You have Koopa Beach 2, where a lot of the middle ground of this track is kind of fenced off, so you're kind of excluded to just going around this little beach area, and you have this little, water maze that you got to go through so you don't go into the deep water, any of those holes, and then you're just kind of circling your way around the beach. It's very simple, but it's also pretty fun because, you can try and navigate yourself to try and find the best item box, to go outside of your way to get that extra item if you need it, but then what lap do you do it on? So there's a level of strategy with this track that's not offered anywhere else. Okay, so you knew this had to be on here at some point. At 109, we have Bowser Castle 2. This is a Bowser Castle in a game that features 4 original Bowser Castles. And I'm not saying this one is bad, it's just my least favorite of all of them. But there's not too much bad to talk about when it comes to this track. It's got some boost panels that are very tricky to get to, so that's one unfortunate misstep. But, it's got some great guardrail sound effects when you're driving on there, so hats off to developers for that. The Podubos and the Thwomps also make this a very tricky challenge, and I do like the layout at some points. There's no real shortcut opportunity or anywhere to, get ahead or take advantage of your items, but besides that, this track is not bad. Okay, so here we go again with the Mario Circuits. They might start rolling in now, but we have Mario Kart Super Circuits version of Mario Circuit, and this has to be one of the most boring looking Mario Circuits of all time. It doesn't even look like Mario in any way, shape, or form. You kind of got the iconic hills from Super Mario World, but besides that, you just have these random trees. The whole course is completely flat. There's one boost panel at the end of the track that doesn't even feel worth it at some points, but it does have some shortcut opportunity, and it is kind of fun to race when you're going up against CPUs because it does offer a little bit of a challenge, but this track just has nothing else to it. Now for our next track stakes, Waluigi Stadium. This was ranked highly 5 years ago, but the reason I put it down here is because I feel bad for this track, and that I feel like this isn't the game it belongs in. When Mario Kart Wii, when they brought that track back as a retro track, it fits perfectly within the game, especially since that has unique bike mechanics. But as a game for Double Dash, where there's a lot of jumps and ramps which aren't really this game's strong suit, I feel like it doesn't fit in. It's got that nice little aesthetic, you're inside a stadium, and it's got these very unique looking metal piranha plants that are fun to avoid. But besides that, it doesn't function well in Double Dash, and therefore whenever I reach it at the end of the Flower Cup, I'm not really too impressed or thrilled to play it, and just more or less want to get it over with. They did a fantastic job putting this back into Mario Kart Wii, but as a Double Dash original, it doesn't fit in as well. And up next at 106 is Choco Island 1. This is the first track in the Flower Cup for Super Mario Kart. It's a little difficult, but it also takes what Choco Island 2 didn't do and adds upon it. It's a more simple loop. The jumps are completely out of the way. The piranha plants, they're more in the way, but that's a plus because, you're trying to avoid them while staying on the main road, and it doesn't have any tight sections. So it makes sense being the easier, more fun, more accessible Choco Island. Also, the mud isn't as interfering in this one, so you're more free to drive however you want on this track. So if there was one track that was offered to have this mechanic, I felt like Excite Bike Arena was the perfect track. However, I just feel like it's a little bit too long, it's a little bit too boring, and the thing is that no matter what time you play this track, and every time you play it, the ramp's positioning will differ. So you'll get ramps in different locations, the boost panels, the little jumps, the grass patches, everything will be in a different location every time you play this track. But each ramp is so similar that it almost doesn't even feel different whenever you play it. So the thought was there and it's very much appreciated, but you don't always, you sometimes miss it because everything is so similar. It's like Baby Park, but it's way too long, and it's just not a track that I usually pick often. Alright, and up next is Toad's Turnpike. This is a track that can take almost a minute to complete if you're finishing it normally, instead of for taking the glitch where you just shoot right to the side of the fence, get counted out of bounds, and can complete a lap in about a half second, which is very, very interesting. I always enjoy new glitch developments, and Mario Kart 64 is getting a ton of them, so Toad's Turnpike gets a little bit of credit because it has a glitch for that track. And also, look at the atmosphere. The blue, the purple, and the red-orange gradient is just amazing for that night sky. you're driving under this underpass, and just, you know, you're going with the trucks and the cars. That's the fun thing about the track, because you'll always see them coming and can have a chance to avoid them. So when you're playing, you are always going so close because you might get hit, but you know, the hit boxes are so generous, you can almost always avoid them. When playing in mirror mode, however, you are facing these tracks and they are coming at you, and they become much more harder to avoid. So it always, you know, shows up for some good times whenever you're racing with your friends, and it's always a good time to have. Up next, we have a track that has generated a lot of questions about why I ranked it so low in my last ranking 5 years ago, why it was in my bottom 15, but now it's up here nearly outside of the top 100. But here we go. This is Moonview Highway from Mario Kart. I've started to grow and appreciate these tracks with these moving cars more often, because the cars add that bit of challenge. They add to the atmosphere that the track is trying to provide. And Moonview Highway did a fantastic job adding these boost panels, because they knew that the track would be so long and boring without them. And when you hit every boost panel and just get constant speed boosts, it's pretty satisfying. Yeah, it's very, very easy for a Special Cup when you know how to avoid all the cars. But besides that, the atmosphere of the track, and it's a fun time to have with friends, like I said. Now up next, we have one of the more unique tracks. This track, like Desert Hills, draws influence from a very old Mario game. It draws from the original Super Mario Brothers, specifically the overground and the underground levels, or overworld I should say. 1-1 and 1-2, you can see all the question mark blocks, you can see the Goombas, you can see the coins, and even the brick walls to your left and right. The influence is everywhere. Even the pipes, even though they're green, yellow, and red, it draws a lot of influence. But there are a lot of times throughout the track where you just can't even tell that it's originated from Super Mario Brothers. Like in this underwater section, you're just trying to get by. You know, it shows off that mechanic pretty well. You got boost panels to help speed through the underwater section, which is so important. And it also features one of the more difficult grass shortcuts. It's hard to get through both of those fences, especially when you don't really know what you're doing. And clearly I didn't over here. But overall, pretty fun track. Now this track is going to be over before I get a chance to say anything about it, but what is there to say about Bowser Castle 1, possibly the shortest track in Mario Kart history? I mean, look at its minimap, and look how far we are already, 6 seconds in. There's just nothing to take in. You got thwomps. It's supposed to be a very easy Bowser Castle 1, and that is exactly what this game accomplishes. There's not much difficulty to it, but I just find it almost comical that a track exists this short, this quick, and is only 3 laps long, so credits to you. We are finally inside the top 100, and what better track to show off than Twisted Mansion, one of the more visually impressive tracks that I have seen. It has the doors to the mansion opening as you are about to start the race, and then we enter its main gimmick, which is its twisty paths. Get it? Its name. You have a nice little shortcut here through a library, but at the same time, you are having a lot of fun choosing which path to take, a left or a right path. Some may shoot you sideways, some may shoot you downwards. It really depends on what you're feeling, but each path is usually the same amount of length, so I gotta credit the developers for making each path seem virtually equal no matter which way you seem to go. And also here you get a top or a bottom path as you are closing the mansion. The top one is a little bit harder to get to, and it saves a bit more time, so you definitely want to go for that one. And a nice little off-road shortcut at the end makes for a complete track that is always a fun time. And for the third time this video, we have Mario Circuit from Mario Kart Double Dash this time around. Again, a rather simple track, but this track is very inviting and engaging. You got the Mario sign above this mountain that lets you know, hey, this is Mario's track. Just in case it wasn't obvious enough, you got the overworld trees, you got Peach's castle hanging in the background, and it's a pretty interesting track. I mean, it's got, you know, that bland Mario layout, but you see Mario's face, you see the mushrooms, so you know the inspiration is there. And then this ending section with the dirt and the Goombas can always be treacherous, so you always want to avoid those and hop onto this bridge to close out the track, and those piranha plants can really ruin your day well. So this is a track that offers a little bit of a challenge despite its inviting atmosphere. Now coming up next at 98, we have a suspiciously tricky track, especially for the Mushroom Cup of Mario Kart Super Circuit. This is Riverside Park. Now they made 2 versions of this track in this game. This is the simpler one. It has a few water shortcuts here and there. Some water shortcuts can cut off a deep amount of water in this track alone. And you have some boost panels which are used very effectively, and while this track is flat, it uses its flatness to its advantage because there's a lot of corners you can cut off with the grass, there's a lot of jump jumps you could turn, and there's also some times where you can miss the jump and then have to redo it, so there's an element of risk to take with this track as well. Beautiful. Now, I don't know what happened between the development of Vanilla Lake 1 and Vanilla Lake 2. I don't know if the developer just kind of ran out of ideas when making Vanilla Lake 2, but this is how you should make a Vanilla Lake track. The ice cubes are not in the most precarious situation. Yes, you're guaranteed to hit them in the first or second lap, but after that, you're through with them, and it makes a lot more sense like that. You have pipes that you kind of have to avoid, and the ice physics are there, but there's a lot of snow that you can cut off to, make the lap as short as possible. This is how Vanilla Lake should be done, and it's a lot more fun and a lot more bearable than its successor. And sticking with this ice theme, we have Ice Outpost from Mario Kart 8 and 8 Deluxe. Just look straight ahead of you. We have a huge ice chunk falling off the side of a mountain. That seems a little bit dangerous, but regardless, we're going to race. And we have a lot of ice surrounding us, interfering, being, present in the form of snowflakes, but there's not much ice on the track itself, unless if you opt to take to one of the shortcuts, which in my opinion is the highest risk versus reward shortcut you can take. In terms of, it offers the most risk with the least reward, because you have to go at them at such a weird angle, and when you cut them off, it hardly saves any time, and it's almost better to save your mushroom just for a straightaway, or for maybe this corner cut right here, which I will usually take. Sometimes I'll mess it up, as you see right over there. So it's one of the more odd tracks in my opinion. But we are going to move on to a chocolate themed track. This is Choco Mountain from Mario Kart 64. Not the most visually stunning track. I get bored just by looking at it, but it does have some nice effects. It's got this awesome fog that's right in front of you, slowly revealing what the rest of the track has to offer as you keep driving through it. And when you do drive through it and get over some of these hills, you will see the dangerous parts of the track, such as these rocks forming and falling from the mountain, so you got to be careful there. Appreciate the yellow sign being there letting us know, but there are some shortcuts you can take in this track as well, which is why this track is up so much for me. You can cut off that entire corner and skip the rocks altogether, and you can even do what's called a weather tanko in a line next to the start line and jump onto the rock mountain, fall back for a quick lap. But hey, look at that, we got our first Mario Kart DS track featured on this video in particular. At number 94 is DK Pass from, like I said, Mario Kart DS. This track doesn't really have too much to offer. It's a mildly difficult track. It's got some snowmen that you have to worry about, and it's kind of, lacking in the shortcut category. But it's overall a pretty fun track to race, because there's a lot of twists and turns that can provide difficulty for you. Like I said, there's some edges you can fall off in. And here's the most interesting part of the track. You're just in a lot of snow, and then these snowballs start coming down at you, and they are huge, massive snowballs that are bigger than your entire cart and can completely damage your race. You got a massive ramp you can take over here, so DK Pass does a lot to innovate in terms of Mario Kart DS standards, and that's why I kind of like it, because you don't really see something like this in terms of a track. DK Pass, you pass. And we are sticking to Mario Kart DS with Peach Gardens. This is a track that does something different that not many other tracks do. First, you have a shortcut within the first 5 seconds of the track, and then you are inside a maze. Once you get past, the very thick flowers, you are inside a maze with chain chomps, so there's a lot of different paths you can take. You have to decide what to do. Do you want to take the safer route to avoid all the chain chomps, or do you want to go straight through the middle and get to the other side as fast as possible to beat the other racers? It really depends what kind of situation you're in, whether you're going for a time trial record or if you're just trying to come in first place. You can also have these moles to avoid over here, and even drive on the courtyard, the front porch area of the castle. A lot of different layouts and terrains to drive through. So 92 is Cheep Cheep Island, and if you take a look at the left, you can tell that this track free fell in my rankings. It was initially very high up, one of my favorite GBA tracks, and fell 54 spots, being at number 92 now. And what is it with this track? Well, it used to be one of my favorite GBA tracks because I liked how atmospheric it was, and how the Cheep Cheeps were animated in the background, and how it provided a unique layout. But then I realized that I didn't enjoy the functionality of the track. I didn't think it was that fun to play the more I got to play it nowadays, and I realized that there are a lot of other GBA tracks that are more simpler, have better music to listen to, and overall provide a better experience, that I prefer those tracks over this one. And compare this track to the other tracks, it kind of fell. And now we're going to talk about a track that didn't fall at all actually, and in fact rose quite a few spots. This is DK Jungle from Mario Kart 7, the first track in the Special Cup in that game, and finally we have a DK track that harkens back to the Donkey Kong Country days. Yes, there are a bunch of other DK tracks before this, and they are very good tracks, as you'll see much later down the list, but this is a track that actually calls back to the previous Donkey Kong Country games that have been very successful. Instead of just having a random element added to it, you can see the giant golden banana statue with a lot of light, the spotlight beaming onto it. There are some classic and modern DK enemies from the DK Country Returns and DK Country series, and this track has a unique and fun layout. It has multiple paths you can take, and it has different terrain going underwater, and you can even glide for some to save some time. This is the track that DK really deserves. And in front of it at 90 we have Luigi's Mansion from Mario Kart DS, a mildly difficult track, but it really does a great job going back to the old Luigi's Mansion days, the launch title for the Nintendo GameCube. Remember, this is way before Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon or Luigi's Mansion 3 were even conceived, so this only had one game to look forward to, and it does that game beautifully. It does it justice. It has you inside the mansion, it has you outside in this courtyard, the graveyard, and it brings you through the mud section, which is most likely my least favorite part of the track. It slows you down quite a lot. It messes up your drifting, so that's why it gets another star in the difficulty counter, because it doesn't really deserve to have this. If it wasn't for this, it would have been a much better track, but it really does a great job harkening to that franchise. And at 89 we have Animal Crossing from Mario Kart 8 and 8 Deluxe, a DLC track that came around April of 2015 with the second wave of DLC for Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, up a little bit of spots. And this track also has a unique element that not any other Mario Kart track has, and that its appearance changes randomly every time you play it, or if you know the certain button combination to press as you are starting to choose this track. You can play the summer version, which is the default and only one you can play on time trials, but there's also a spring version, a fall version, and a winter version, each with their own separate rendition of the soundtrack. And it's a simple, fun track to play. Even though I'm not the biggest Animal Crossing fan, I can respect this track for what it does. And finally, to close out the video, we have Donut Plains 1 from Super Mario Kart. Of course, all the Donut Plains tracks are callbacks to Donut Plains in Super Mario World, as that was a very influential game at the time, and Super Mario Kart was just coming out around the same time, so they had to make a track in, relation to that. That's where, Choco Island also takes, name inspiration from that as well, so a lot of inspiration from Super Mario World. And this track, as a track, it functions decently, functions the best out of all the three Donut Plains tracks. It has a cool shortcut at the beginning, but it also has some very unnecessarily tight turns, and it makes the races not really too much fun. It's just a track that I'm like, oh, I'm here to play, now let me just get it done with and move on to the next one. And guys, that's gonna do it for episode 2 of the top 145 Mario Kart tracks of all time. I'm loving to redo this ranking, and I hope you guys are too. Please give the video a like if you want to see the rest of the videos shortly. Subscribe so you don't miss out when those videos do come out. And overall, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day.